Today on the show, we have Crystal, Tyler, and Robin, our first V dynamic. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Hi.
Would you like to tell us your love story? How did you meet? How did you become a V? How did you end up living together? We want to know everything.
Me and Crystal, we have 2 kids, been together for over 10 years. I became friends with Robin just a few years ago, and we became best friends, and he was constantly over all the time, as much as possible, really. And then I started going down a bit of a dark hole of irresponsibility, and I'd be asleep and Robin would be doing my dishes and stuff and picking up where I was lacking, like a lot. And then me and Crystal grew some distance, and she started growing fond of him. And you want to pick up from there? I don't know how else to...
Yeah. Basically, we were like 3 best friends that hung out every single weekend and just spent like a lot more time together than you probably should if you're trying to
like traveling together.
Keep your relationship super protected, I guess I would say. And we were all really close. We were traveling. And we also share like a hobby that's like really special to us. And we started basically, he would play music and we would do this thing, it's called flow arts, and we'd be spinning together. And then there was just like one moment where we were spinning together, he's DJing for us, and we just looked at each other and we were like, oh, fuck. Like, prior to that, it was like completely platonic, like, never crossed my mind whatsoever. And then there was just like, from 0 to 100, where we looked at each other and we're like, this feels really good, but also terrifying. and so then like I told Tyler, because, I really wanted to be transparent and honest. And as you guys can imagine, it did not go well to begin, and it was a lot of really uncomfortable conversations, arguments. Like it was obviously a very painful thing for him. But, we decided like, we really cared about Robin and didn't want to just be like, F you, like, you're not our friend anymore. Like, at that point, there was nothing like that had been like done, it was just like, these are just feelings that we couldn't really prevent. They just happened to us. And so we tried keeping our distance for a little bit. We'd all still hang out and like, but it was like really awkward because me and Robin would just like be like, oh, we're going to like stay over here. I'm like, I don't even know how to interact around you, like trying to like shove everything down, and then simultaneously, that obviously caused a lot of like issues in our relationship. And, there was the things going on that were like causing resentment between him and I. And so it basically got to like a boiling point where we were going to break up. And, then after, obviously, like in a time of like breaking up, like people like come to like these realizations. And, he like started thinking about it and he was like, I think my understanding was that he didn't want to lose us, and he started thinking about it and he was like, actually, like, it's not a horrible idea. Like 3 incomes sounds pretty nice. And like extra help around the house. And like, we already kind of were like in a relationship. We just like weren't, like it was pretty much there before in terms of like supporting one another. Like he was always coming over and just like being a part of our family essentially.
Yeah.
And, so then he basically came to us and was like, all right, how about we just like try, and he's like coming back telling me like all the same talking points, like, well, like it could be really nice or whatever. And then at that point, like I wasn't even really sure, but I was like, you know what, this is like what we've really wanted. And so we decided to go ahead, and he like made a complete like transformation and like stopped, doing the things that were causing issues in our relationship. All 3 of us like became like instantly like healthier, like overnight. Because we were like, if we're going to do this, like we need to like be serious. And this is family. Like we're not like partying, whatever. We all like pretty much stopped drinking. He started like journaling and seeing like a therapist and a psychiatrist and got like a lot of support. He also like transformed his life. And I feel like all 3 of us have just like made like leaps and bounds and like progressing who we are as individuals. Not to say it hasn't come without challenges. You know, I think there's a lot of issues in terms of like, especially like 2 men, like deciding to do this in terms of like being accepted by peers or family members, you know, and so there was like a lot of negative response, but there was also like a lot of really positive response. And over time, as people have like seen us, I feel like they've really kind of opened their minds to it. And
yeah, it's actually pretty crazy the amount of people who just that but come out of nowhere and tell you that, hey, we look up to you for like coming out as public. We also date like this, but we are terrified to tell anybody because it is really bad at first when you tell like family members and stuff. They go crazy. And then after I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 months gone by, all of our family got to see how the three of us interact with one another, and they're like, oh wow, this is not what we were imagining in our minds at all. You know?
Yeah. You show them that you are actually a family first.
Like even like some of our friends, like we weren't. Crystal was invited to a wedding, but it was a +1, so there wasn't a +2. So I mean, whose heart do you break? You know? So it's like, well, she didn't break any. She just went alone.
Okay.
And like I heard, like there's some part to it where it's like they wouldn't invite both of us because they didn't know really how long it was going to last or something like that. And then, but I mean, hindsight, everybody was mad that we both weren't there. So, I mean.
Well, and I think it was more so, and I totally understood that. It's like, to people who have conservative family members, you know, and then us coming to a wedding that's supposed to be all about like a couple and like very like monogamous mindset, you know, they don't want like the attention to like be taken off of them and like what's going on over here, you know. So I totally understand that. And we actually had a really good conversation afterwards. Like my friends were not supportive of us whatsoever. It was more so like them being worried about like how are their family members going to react, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and like for us, you know, I think the big thing was that the honesty component, like we would not be here if it was like, oh, we had these feelings and we're just going to go act on them, like without like, you know, informing him and everybody like consenting to it. And it's really like caused like a beautiful transformation and like people being able to work on our issues more. Like it brings things to the surface that like maybe weren't so problematic or like apparent before, you know, and, forces us to like really consciously put effort into our relationships. And, you know, I think that I'm just like really proud to see them be open to that because like for me, it makes me feel like that is like the most like unconditional loving thing that they're both willing to share me essentially. So because they know that they don't want to hurt me by making me choose. Like at the end of the day, if I had to choose, like I'm going to be upset with whoever I'm still with, you know, like I'm just not going to be happy regardless. And side note, one of my things that I really wanted to share was about the kids and like how they responded to that. So at the time, like when there was like a couple week period that we were kind of broken up and preparing like for me to like move out and stuff. And like our older son, who's 10, he knew about that and like kind of understood the situation, but like not fully or whatever. And then after we decided we were going to do this, we sat him down and we were like, well, like, you know, like mommy loves Robin, but mommy also still loves daddy. And we decided like, we're all going to try to love each other. And he goes, that's what I was going to suggest.
Just makes sense.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, wow, that like, I will remember that for the rest of my life. And like for them, like I feel like it hasn't phased them
Not at all. If anything, there's another person here to give them attention, you know, and help. And also with that being said, me and Crystal get to go out and do more things than we have ever before because he'll stay home with the kids and we'll go out and do stuff and vice versa. I'll stay home and they will go out, you know, because of the kids or whatever. And it's actually really great. And this dynamic is actually, it is caused like such a major improvement in my own life and mentality because every other day I get to explore all of this free time to do things that I forgot that I used to love. It's been awesome.
That's interesting. So you say every other day. Do you take like one day Crystal spends with you and the other one?
And then the other night. Yeah.
So it's similar to kind of how, because we started as a V as well, and we kind of keep that going where I don't know if you saw it on the podcast where we one night Josh sleeps with me and then one night Josh sleeps with Shar and then we sleep together, Shar and I as well. But yeah, so I know what you mean. Yeah, you get to do things that you enjoy by yourself.
Yeah, I like to be able to like share like one hobby with him and a different hobby with him. You know, it's like different sides of me gets to come out and, you know, me not feel like I'm lacking support or connection in any area of my life. And then, okay, so, yeah, you know, we used to in the beginning, and it took some time trying to figure out this schedule and trying to figure, like now we have like a calendar and stuff. You definitely learn that like you have to plan more in this circumstance than just like go with the flow. But we used to try to do it where like 3 nights out of the week we would all sleep together. But we learned very quickly that 3 people in a bed is not that comfortable. Like we still do sometimes, you know, depending on the occasion, and it's nice, but like we could only do it like one night.
Yeah, so somehow the mattress feels like it has a heater built into it.
It does get
a few
hot.
hours.
And then you're like in your head, you're like, well, I can't turn one direction. The other person's going to get their feelings hurt.
Why is it facing me?
And then like trying to climb out of the bed without like disturbing them while they're sleeping.
Yeah.
You're like climbing over top of them. No side table. I'm like, where do I put my stuff?
I know. Yeah, that's why I was asking everyone, how do you do it? It's horrible. Everything under my pillow.
I know. I see some of the triads, like they all sleep together every single night. I'm like, maybe they like rotate or something. You know?
I don't know.
Some do, some don't, but yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, I cherish my individual time that I have now so much just because of what I'm doing with it. So I could not do that every single night. No.
At first, was it hard for you, Tyler? Was it hard?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was so hard. It was like really, really crazy hard. Like, especially because I was battling a addiction problem that was really messing with my mental health. And I used to be 220 pounds.
Wow.
And I was just in a really not good place in my life. And so, yeah, in the beginning, it was insanely hard. But because of this, it's just elevated me to such a higher place than I have felt like I've been in.
Ever.
Yeah. So it's the positives by far outweigh the negatives.
Yeah.
In the whole, you know.
And I think it's hard for all 3 of us in just different ways, you know, like it's hard for me to have my attention split and always like being in my head trying to balance everything or, you know, trying to meet the needs of 2 people. It's hard. Both of them, I think, you know, came from a monogamous, like what you're expecting in life. And so there's like a lot of sacrifice that goes into like, okay, you're not going to have the vision that you had for your whole life. It's a new vision and it's a beautiful, you know, opportunity. I think there's so many things that we could do together and accomplish, but it's different.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's some like grief on both sides, you know, for the idea of what your life was going to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think this looks better than what I was thinking it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then just to step back to the mental health thing, if I was having a hard time when this was all going down. So on top of that, all of your like peers and, you know, family members, friends or whatever are all saying all this derogatory negative stuff to you on top of it.
Yes.
And while you're trying to make this work, it's so hard. It's like, do it. No, don't do it. Like it was very hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now everybody that we know has come to the other side and they're like, holy shit. Like, wow.
Nice.
That's
We had
awesome.
you guys.
That's good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Right. Your
Yeah.
experience.
How about you, Robin? How was it for you from your perspective, from the beginning of the relationship?
The whole beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the beginning, it was definitely hard, just getting over jealousies. But then like over time, just finding out or realizing that like it didn't really mean as much. It was like stupid to even get mad about like what you're mad about. And like the craziest thing is like every day, just you're so different than who you were just the day before, the week before, the month before. Like I feel like I'm a completely different person than I was a year ago. I mean, dramatically.
I agree with that as
And
well.
like it's definitely been like relationship on hard mode. That's for sure. But I mean, like just the growth that's happened in the last year is insane. Because I mean, we're all committed, and so it's just you have to get through it. So, but we do, which is great, you know.
Yeah, it forces you to grow. Yeah, and if
Exactly.
you're not, this is like I think everybody can agree with me that when you see other triads not succeeding, it's because they don't want to put in the work. Because it is a lot of work.
It's almost like transparent of like why they didn't work whenever you see like them like, oh, like, and a lot of them just turn into like poly haters. Yeah, it's like I tried it and it's everyone's just like they want it for their own like
selfish needs.
Yeah, selfish needs or whatever, and like this. I mean, we're all in it as a collective, so I mean, I think that's why we're working out.
I think it helped that we came from like best friends, you know, like we
Right.
already really loved each other beforehand. It was just like a little bit of shifts. You know?
It was everything's still the same minus the like sexual relationship between them and him living here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's not like they picked me up at a bar.
Right.
Yeah.
How was it for you, Robin, that transition from friend to more? What were you thinking? Like when you started developing
What were
feelings?
you thinking?
I want to know your inner turmoil.
Yeah, I don't think any of us realized like how hard it would be.
No.
You know, it's so funny because it's like beforehand, like when these feelings happen, like in my head, I was like, okay, the only win-win here, because I was like, I'm gonna be like regretful for the rest of my life on either end if I'm like not, you know, able to fulfill the love that I have for both of them. And I was like, the only win-win is polyamory. And so I'm in my head, like manifesting, like I'm visualizing what it could be like or whatever, you know, and I was like, oh, like as the moment like Tyler just like surrenders and like, you know, this is like, he realizes like, wow, this actually could really work. Like, it'll just be like so easy for the rest of our lives. Like, happily ever after. And I was like, no, that's the moment work begins.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So I'm curious, are there things that you guys have learned about yourselves that you wouldn't have learned without this relationship dynamic or without Robin in your lives?
100%. 100%. I mean, that's a lot of like going back to what I was saying about like self-growth. So all these old past hobbies and new hobbies I've gotten into and things I do to keep myself busy and active were just non-existent before. And it just in every aspect of life, like I'm a friendlier person now.
Mm-hmm.
They're just so, I don't even know where to start talking about it. Just this so much.
You
better.
found yourself in a way by having more time for yourself. And
I think I learned that I have a tendency to take on the emotions of other people around me and like feel responsible always for other people's emotions, and also like a tendency to become defensive easily. So like I feel like this has been kind of a spotlight on those weaknesses of mine, and something that I'm like continuously trying to practice, of like letting people feel their feelings and knowing like, hey, it's not like relationship ending if somebody's upset, like they just have to work through it. And like I have to figure out how to be like a better support in those times, instead of being like, oh no, I'm in trouble.
yeah.
Oh, it's the end, like whatever. So
yeah, it's hard to find that balance of like being a support without taking responsibility for those other relationships. And I think whether you're the hinge or like one of the people on the outside, like that's a challenge for all of us, I think.
Yeah. Speaking of hinge, I wanted to ask you, Crystal, how does it feel like to be a hinge? Do you find it difficult? Is there a lot of responsibility? Do you feel responsible to make both the boys happy? Like, how is it like?
Right. I kind of view it as like a microcosm of life. It's both good and bad. And it's allowed me to experience like some of the highest highs and also some of the lowest lows, you know, but I've also seen over time it becomes easier and easier to navigate those lows, and they don't go as low. But for me, it's like, it really comes down to like, wow, I've never felt so like loved and supported in my life. And like my confidence has increased from this, because I'm like, these guys are amazing. I was like, if I could have pulled one of them, like, that's amazing. Oh my God. I was like, okay, it must be kind of cool or something. I have some redeemable qualities.
Yeah.
So that definitely increased my confidence. And in ways, like, my life has become easier because like having Robin's support around the house like really takes a lot of pressure off. But also like Tyler has stepped up and become more of like a partner to me, when in the past it felt very much like kind of like I was the one doing everything in the home and taking care of all the responsibilities alone. And
I wasn't even taking care of myself.
Right. Yeah. So now it's like I went from having like half a partner to having like two partners. And so now it's like, it just seems like there's so many more things that are just easier to accomplish because we just make like a good team together, and we've also like started kind of hosting for our hobby that we share, and Tyler's into it too. He's getting more and more into it, but we host these like community events, and it's really cool because that particular community has like 50% of the people are polyamorous. Yeah. So we never knew anybody poly ever until this. And now we're just like connecting with all these people just naturally. And it's really cool to see like all the different dynamics too, because like nobody has like the same relationship.
No.
Like they are not comparable. You see so many different ways that they happen, and just amounts of people and genders and whatever. And so it's really cool. I feel like it's opened our mind a lot to things. And even like, in the past, prior to this happening to us, I have had like some friends that were poly and like pretty serious about it. And I just remember like being like, how? Like I was one of those people asking the questions that people ask me, where I'm like, I could never do that. Like, I don't know how you guys do that. And I just like couldn't wrap my head, but I was always very fascinated, and I always had a lot of respect for them, because I was like, wow, like I know that must be really challenging, but like that's also like really beautiful. And to me, it's also like kind of a spiritual thing, because it's like I believe in reincarnation. I believe that we don't just have like one soul partner, that we have like soul families that we've incarnated with many times before. And so like if that's the case, then there's not just like one true love for you, and it really kind of opens up to more of like a universal love. And like I feel like we've all just become more like loving people as a whole. So
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. How is it coming out? Like, how was that experience? To family, friends? Are you out at work or everywhere?
So I'm a therapist, so I'm pretty. I'll just like refer to my partner, and they don't know which partner I'm talking to. But I do have some poly clients, so with them I'm a little bit more open, But for the most part, I try to keep like myself a little bit more private that way. But
and with family.
Yeah, so everybody knows our situation.
Yeah. I tell everybody, like if. I almost like brag about it.
Yeah.
Was it easy for you guys to just like, whatever, this is us, take it or leave it? Or was it hard to tell some people?
It was hard. It was very hard to kind of like get over that hill of like, I'm scared to tell the world about this, but what a relief it is after you do. Yeah. Very bumpy road. People, like I was saying before, they think you're a psycho and this should be illegal, but you're allowed to love all your pets, your children, brothers, sisters, moms. You're allowed to love so many other things in life, but why are you only allowed to love one person?
Right.
Yeah.
When we came out with this, we felt all alone. And then as we started picking up and getting a little bit more popular, along with all the hate mail and everything we receive every day.
Oh yeah.
We also get messages pretty much daily from people saying, "Hey, I can't be out. I'm even leery to be on social media, but thank you for being out there. Thank you for existing."
Yeah.
And so that always means the world to us when we get those messages.
Crystal posted our coming out post in a poly group on Facebook, and it was getting so much traction. And then I don't know, a white supremacist group, I guess, found it, and just the most racist, hateful things, just hundreds of comments from those types of people, I guess. They attacked it. It was terrible. It was scary. They're saying they were like threatening our kids and us.
Right.
And,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it is scary, but once you get past that and realize, like, you know, these internet people don't matter to you, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was at my nephew's, forget how old he was turning. It was at his birthday party because my mom, I had told her that it was like Crystal and Tyler had broken up, and then she was looking at houses in Stewart, but that all changed to us being together. And I was telling my mom, like, yeah, so she asked me, she was like, so have you found any houses in Stewart? And I was like, well, we're not moving to Stewart now. I'm actually moving into their house. Like, what? And I was like, yeah, we're all going to just be together. And I was like, oh, okay. And I mean, that shell shocked her, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, my mom, she's been
she's awesome.
She's been the most supportive person throughout this whole thing. My sister Liana, she's been so supportive
also
through the whole thing. I mean, my dad, we don't really talk anymore.
Same.
So
my dad has pretty much completely abandoned me.
My dad,
it's the men that have problems.
my dad kind of just like treats it like just brushed it under the rug. So like he doesn't, like, if I see him on a rare occasion, he'll just, how you doing? Good. How you doing? Good. You know, just keep it at that.
Right.
So it is what it is with that. But
whoever matters, they're there for you.
Yeah, exactly.
People.
You really, those people really get weeded out in like a time like this, and you're like, you see exactly that. Like,
Life's way more transparent.
Like, you know, who's actually your real people who support you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, you know, so for us, like we were kind of keeping it to ourselves for a couple months or whatever. And then it just got to the point where it's like, I want to be who I am publicly. Like, I've always kind of liked sharing about my life publicly. And this is something that's like really relevant, you know? And, so yeah, we're very happy to share like content and stuff of all of us. And I also feel like it's almost our dharma and our purpose to do this, because the more out that we are, the more that other people can feel comfortable and safe doing it, you know, and yeah, we might get some hate, but maybe that's like paving the way for there to be less hate once people see like, oh, wow. Because our like poly page is like pretty wholesome for the most part. Like, it's got a lot of like family stuff going on, you know, and I think people like when they see it, they're like, oh, that's like not what I expected it to be like. You know, like,
and a lot of our friends have like this image of us, because like before we got into this, we were party every weekend, rage, and just a mess. And like everyone, I feel like they had an image of us just like, oh, they're just gonna be partying the whole time and like just going down a horrible road. But now it's like oh, they have just wholesome family vacations to the beach, and like they're super happy. And, like, it's just,
we're not holding beers in our pictures.
Like,
you got a 6-pack now.
That's nice.
And, you know, that was also like, I feel like for a while, some of our friends kind of like fell off, as I think that they were kind of like processing it, you know? And I think at first they were like, oh, this is a little uncomfortable. It's weird. They didn't know what it was going to be like to be around us, you know? And then once they were around us and they realized like, oh, it's exactly the same as before, except sometimes she gives him a kiss too. Okay, that's like not that weird.
Right. So if anything, it made you become more of a family than anything.
Yeah.
And you spend a lot of time with the kids, I'm assuming, all three of you.
Yep.
Yeah. And the kids are Crystal and Tyler's, right?
Yes.
Robin, you don't have any kids?
No.
All right. And the kids, do they love you? Do you love them? It's all like,
absolutely.
Is it a natural transition?
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. They look at him as like a second dad around the house.
Yep.
You know?
It's such a beautiful story of like, it could have so easily gone the other way if any one of you three wasn't willing to put in the work. And it could have been just another statistic of another broken family, kids going back and forth. And I mean, I know not everybody can do this, but it's just such a beautiful representation of what can be possible when you are willing to do the hard things and become a better person. Because we do, like, we are all, I mean, we have gone through very similar things where we are all very different, but much better people now than we ever could have been without this relationship.
Yeah.
That just gave me chills because it's, it really is true. Like the moment where it was like, wow, the life that we've built together felt like it was imploding. And, and we both come from broken families or whatever, not like to say that's like the worst thing in the world. We're fine. We love our parents and step parents and whatnot, but it was always something that like we really wanted to like give our kids that like 2-parent family forever. And that was something like we were really committed to. So like going through that time where it was like, wow, maybe that might not be the case anymore, was like, and to see like how my son had like responded, like it was like devastating to see that, and this really was like the only happy answer after you put in the work and continue to put in the work, like it wasn't happy and easy right away, but it's, and that just goes to show like how much like he really cares about me and also really cares about our kids and like wants to give them this, and how much he cares, like, and, because he at that point in time could have easily been like, no, F that, like, you just told me that you're leaving him, like, I refuse to do it, but he was like, no, like, let's do that, because neither of us were like, we want to be together and leave him. Right. We were like, we want just to like all be together. Like this just feels so natural, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but I have this like spiritual theory that like we've been in this circumstance like multiple lifetimes before. And like we probably kept like getting it like wrong, where it was like one person's screwing somebody over, they're cheating, they're lying or whatever. And this is like the first time we were like, oh, here's the path, we found the answer. And you do the hard things and good things come from them. Like that's just how life works.
Right. I admire your transparency. When you saw what was going to happen, you chose the right way. And that takes a lot of courage. I mean, you risked a lot, but that was the right way to move forward.
I mean, even for the guys, and I love hearing your stories as well. Like you are not poly. And I think a lot of people see these dynamics and they're like, well, they just assume that this is you sacrificing something. Like you're getting less out of your life and your relationship than what you could have had and should have had. And I just love, like, especially you, Tyler, sharing how your life is better now because you're able to give yourself more attention that you couldn't before. So even though you were wired monogamously, your life is still improved by this polyamorous relationship.
For sure. And I feel like everybody, for the most part, is like taught that mindset while you're being raised as a kid, and it is scary to make that leap, but what a tremendous outcome it has been. I wouldn't ever want to go back to what it was.
I, for one, am glad you guys exist and are out and open, because since the very beginning, we always get these comments from people on social media. Why do you guys never show 2 guys and 1 girl? It's always from somebody that has no desire to be in a throuple. They just want to get a dig in there because they think everything's still patriarchal. This is an egalitarian, and it's
Yep.
So it's been a challenge.
They might be out there, but it could really be that like men receive way more backlash.
Yeah.
You guys are cucks, betas, whatever. And so I think it's very intimidating for a man, and that's why I think you see a lot of like the one penis policy type of stuff going on too, because it's like they're taught like masculine alpha male would never do that kind of thing, and I think they're both very masculine and alpha. So.
Self-respecting and
No, that's a great point.
So being that, I'm going to ask a difficult question now. All right, 2 alpha masculine men, not in a sexual relationship with each other. You guys ever go to blows? Just like sometimes you get in a fight and just ready to just get out.
No,
that's what
we've not. Normally,
lovers, not
no, normally if we have I don't know, some thoughts about one another, somehow Crystal's the middle person. She'll relay the messages between one another, because I feel like I don't know, we don't want hostility between us, him and I. I've never ever once, since as long as I've known him, except for, well, wait, I take that back. Since we've been in this relationship, like officially, I have never ever once wanted to fight him or just anything negative. There was a point in time where my life was going downhill and I was going to lose Crystal, where I was saying some kind of scary stuff, but no, never at all whatsoever.
Yeah, there's never been like any point of contention where I'm like, I just want to punch Tyler. It's never been that. Like, no matter how bad it's gotten, I'm just like, man, it really pisses me off or something like that. But like, I've never had any thoughts of violence against Tyler whatsoever.
Well, it helps you guys already were best friends.
And I was thinking the same thing.
And it's like it's like, I mean, I know how Tyler works and he knows how I work. And through all of this, we've figured out a lot more about how each other works too. And I mean, we know how to just like help each other out and like we know how to resolve things a lot faster now. Because in the beginning, something would happen and it would take a day to get over. Then it evolved to it'd take 10 hours to get over. Now it'll take 20 minutes to get over. Nice. Now it gets quicker and quicker and quicker, and the problems seem less, and it's just getting better as the days go on.
Yeah, and like the last time him and I had some sort of like conflict or whatever, I was like, you know what? You want to go for a bike ride? Yeah. And him and I took the kids, my son, on a bike ride, for like an hour.
Yeah.
And everything was magically better after that.
Nice.
I like that. That's beautiful. Is there anything that you would do differently now, looking back, and how you started?
Differently how?
Differently from how you did it the first time around. Like when you first started your V relationship, is there anything that you would change?
We all make mistakes.
Any mistakes?
Shit, I could have done that.
You mean like advice, like if anybody else is watching? Or...
Yeah.
Well, personally, I would say no, just due to how we are now. And if it weren't for how things happened, maybe we would not have developed how we are today.
And I feel like a lot of it's like you have to experience it to learn from it,
right?
Because it's hard to give someone else advice when you're not them.
Yeah,
because every situation is different. It's very complex between three people. It's three different personalities that you have to deal with, and there isn't another set just like them.
That's very true.
Robin, was there anything that you found particularly helpful or helped really shift your mindset when you were dealing with the jealousies?
I mean, Crystal, she's a therapist, so she gives like coping skills and stuff. And it's like gratitude, just always practice gratitude and what you're grateful for, and just really look at yourself through a third-party perspective, just so you can just really realize what really matters. And because a lot of times what you're mad about doesn't even matter.
Do you think it's easier to be a V or a throuple?
I feel like it would probably be harder to be like a full triad. I feel like that's even another level of complexity. And then like if somebody feels like left out, I feel like that's even harder because they're feeling left out from two romantic partners, instead of like one romantic partner and a metamor or something. Yep. So,
yeah, both relationships definitely come with their own challenges. Yeah, it's not even a comparison.
And benefits, though.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think I would have done anything. I think we did the best that we could with our level of awareness that we had at that point in time. And I think we've learned a lot. Like, one of the things we struggled with in the beginning was like scheduling, and just like now that we have consistency in our schedule where it's like, we know like, okay, there's going to be like 2 date nights a week and we know like how it is. It's not so hard as it's like, okay, I'm going to plan a date night and then you don't know when your next one is going to be. So now you're feeling upset because they're doing something and you don't have it in your head that like, okay, in 3 days we're going to have our time. So it's okay. I can like let that go or whatever.
Yeah.
That was like something I think helped like ironing out some of those things. I think for me also like learning, I have to constantly kind of put myself back into a state of like trying to remember their perspectives, because I get caught up in my own perspective and feeling like, wow, this is like a lot of pressure on me, and then I have to like pause and, in the moment I might be like reactive or whatever, but after I take some time to reflect on it, I remember that like if anybody's ever upset with me, it's coming from like a place of hurt or pain, and like, can I do something better, or can I just hold space knowing that this is just like something that like is like prolonged exposure therapy essentially, and it gets easier with time. So
is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners?
I don't know, go for it. Like the things that you question and the things that you're afraid of and could possibly be holding you back from being a different person. You'll never know if you don't try, try to climb up that hill, see what's on the other side.
Yeah. Don't be afraid.
I love that.
I think like, don't be afraid to be who you are. I think living authentically, there's actually a research study out there of, they studied like the frequencies of each emotion and what is the highest frequency. And everybody like, kind of assumes it would be love would be the highest frequency, but the highest frequency emotion is actually authenticity. So when you are being true to yourself, that is like the happiest you can be in life, so don't let other people dictate what kind of life you're going to live, and don't let fear of judgment hold you back from being true to who you are.
That's amazing. I did not know that about authenticity.
How about you, Robin? Anything you want to add?
Get ready to do a lot of work.
That's the truth in it right there.
At the end of the day, it's worth it if it works out, But I mean, you're going to definitely find out a lot about yourself and your partners.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
just make sure you want to work for it,
I think that's like important to remember too, is like something that's helped me is like kind of reframing relationships as a whole, and like remembering that every relationship ends no matter what, like whether it's through death or a breakup or whatever. So like not looking at the relationship of like, okay, what if it doesn't last for the rest of my life? Then maybe I shouldn't try this or whatever. But instead, relationships are meant to be like tools to develop your soul and progress like who you are. And this is that. Like if you look at a relationship like that, this is that. So, I think that's like really special too. And I also feel like a big change, things started getting easier also like when he finally like came to this like full like commitment to it, because I think like he mentioned before, when he's hearing negative voices from other people, like he had this like back and forth of like, should I do it, should I not do it? And during that time, in the should I not do it moments, it was not the healthiest dynamic between us. And it was like when it became, oh, okay, I'm doing it, that's where it's like, okay, now I'm looking at, is what we're doing like fostering our goal of making this work,
That was the other side of the hill.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you guys for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us on.
Do you guys have any advice? I'd love to hear your advice.
Pretty much the same thing you guys have said. Yeah, it's a lot of relationship on steroids for sure. Everything is like, and it forces you to be authentic.
Yeah. The one thing we did right in the very beginning is we burned the ships. We said, we're committed to this no matter what. And so that always, even in the middle of a heated argument, it took that out of the equation. We didn't have to waste any mental,
should we continue? Should we not?
Should we do it? It's like, well, that's not even on the table. So how do we fix and solve this problem? How do we fix the communication here?
Lock us all in a room, throw away the key, get some No, I'm joking. We don't do any fight nights. Guys, thank you for being guests on our show, and it was wonderful to talk to you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
If you like our episodes, subscribe to our channel and share them with people just like yourselves.
If you are in a throuple or triad or hope to be someday, please head over to Facebook and join our private group, Throuple Talk Connection Hub.
And we'll see you next time.